Hi there, it's Alex here from Crafted Cycles, and today I'm going to be answering the age-old question: which bottom bracket's better, press fit or threaded? So let's start with the advantages of both different types of bottom brackets. A threaded bottom bracket is probably one of the most common bottom brackets. It's been around for ages, back to when bikes were made out of steel. It relies on the bottom bracket itself threading into the frame. Now you've got two different types. You've got Italian thread and a BSA standard threaded bottom bracket. Both of these bottom brackets work similar, they just have different ways that they screw in. So with a threaded bottom bracket, you are directly screwing the bottom bracket shell into the frame. This makes sense, this works logically, and it's one of the easiest things for a user at home to install. As long as you've got the correct tool, it goes straight in and usually there's no problems. With more modern bikes like this Parley right here, it uses a T47 bottom bracket. It's still threaded, but it's a much larger diameter. This allows increased bottom bracket shape, easier passing for internal routing, and also allows you to have a bigger bearing diameter. Moving over to this Parley here with the Pressfit, one of the main advantages of a Pressfit bottom bracket is the fact that it's a little bit lighter. So instead of relying on an insert bonded into the frame, you are using the exact same carbon that the frame is built out of to house your bearings. So with a bike like this and most Pressfits, the cup is getting pressed into the frame, and that usually requires a specific tool. However, it's actually fairly simple. They press in, the bearings sit then within the cups in the frame, and it makes for an overall slightly stiffer frame as you can overbuild this and you're not relying on any other moving parts. Again, like the T47, this uses like a BB30, which is quite a standard press fit size, which is slightly bigger. It allows all the cables to pass around and you can have that oversized bottom bracket area. So comparing the two, one of the big obvious differences is usability. So whereas Pressfit requires you to own a Pressfit bottom bracket tool, so this essentially works as a thread with two sides that push together to make sure those bearings in their cups sit completely evenly. Whereas on the threaded one, you can essentially turn it by hand, but then to get it to torque, you'll get a tool that has the ridges on it, that gives it nice and tight, but essentially it's just like screwing a bolt in. It's a lot harder to get this one wrong when installing than it is on a press fit. So generally speaking, a lot of people assume, okay, press fit, it's bad, it's hard to install, it must be bad. Not necessarily. Like a lot of modern bikes, it's a little bit more complex, but actually when done properly, it's a fairly simple job. But for the average person at home, a threaded bottom bracket is a lot easier, both to get your head around and also the tools you need. As long as you've got the correct shape tool for the job, it's going to be a simple job. So as with all different designs, there are going to be some drawbacks to the bottom bracket type. So with a threaded, quite often the most common drawback that you'll find is actually the quality of the threads within the frame. So this is a really good example of how a T47 should be installed. It's pinned in all the way through, so it's going to be dead straight. But we find on some bikes of lesser quality, the bonded in insert where the thread goes into within the carbon frame is actually on the wonk, and that means that your cranks are just going to not fit straight, they're going to creak, and all the problems that you thought you were solving by going threaded have actually come back. You've got a creaking bottom bracket, even though you've got a threaded BB shell. So when you are looking at getting a bike that has a threaded shell in it, this is more of a thing with carbon bikes. It's important to make sure it's nicely faced, it's a nice straight cut, and there's no paint overspray, there's no gunky threads and things like that, because although yes, you can face and chase a frame, ideally it's a good indicator of quality. If everything's clean, everything works perfectly, we don't want to have to be modifying new frames. So moving over to the Pressfit bottom bracket, and the thing most people are going to know about Pressfit bottom brackets is, oh, Pressfit bottom brackets creak. Well, they shouldn't, and good Pressfit bottom brackets don't creak, and it's never anything to do with the actual bottom bracket. Quite often it's to do with the tolerances on the frame. There's been some brands in history, especially when they first came out, where they've kind of not really paid too much attention to this. So if it's a few millimeters out or a few 0.1 of a millimeters out, you're going to be creaking and nothing's going to solve it. However, a well-made frame up to great tolerances should have no problems at all with a Pressfit bottom bracket. So in conclusion, what I'm trying to get across is that it's not about the bottom bracket type, it's about how it's executed. So no matter what someone on a forum says, oh, threaded is better than Pressfit or vice versa, It's all down to the quality of the frame and how it's been made. So these Parleys are a great example. They measure up bang on to what they should be. They're taking the extra care to face the bottom brackets accurately. And you can just see by the attention to detail that something like this is not going to give you any issues. So whether it's threaded, press fit, regardless of the shape of the axle, whether it's a T47 or a PF30, as long as the frame is made well and care has been taken in the production of the bike, then you should have no problems at all. So as a mechanic, in my opinion, there isn't much difference. If I'm looking to buy a bike myself, I don't care what it has as long as it's from a good brand. The difference in time it takes to swap out a Pressfit bottom bracket compared to a threaded bottom bracket is negligible. So really, go for whatever bike you want, and the bottom bracket type for most people should be a minor consideration. At the end of the day, if the tolerances are out on your frame, both types of bottom bracket fitting will give you problems. So as long as your bike's all well made and everything, you should have no problems whatsoever.